pornography is something that I hear quite a lot from typically young males, but sometimes young females or even older females who say that they can see themselves trying to resist the desire to go look at it. And it almost doesn't feel like a desire anymore. They're sort of just in a kind of a compulsion that is almost unconscious, but they're just aware of the fact that they're
like an eating disorder.
Like an eating disorder. They're doing it, they know they shouldn't be doing it, and they can't help themselves. And we could think about two ways to attack this if one believes it's a real concern, and they certainly do, so I do. I would be open if I had or do. Pornography has not been my thing, and I don't struggle with it. But when I hear from these people, it's so clear that they're asking, is it the prevalence of pornography out there? Or is it something really broken in them? Like, are they broken? But I don't know that I would say, after having the discussion we've had thus far, that they're broken. It seems to me that it's like as you said, it's the manifestation of one part of their, it's one personality within them.
Well, and it's been compulsively rewarded. So, you know, when you see yourself moving towards the culmination of a desired goal, a dopamine, that's accompanied by dopamine release, okay? And so two things, you know this, but everybody who's listening might not. There's two elements to that dopamine release. One is pleasure, but the other is that the dopamine, imagine that there are circuits activated as you're acting. What the dopamine does is increase the probability that the circuits that were activated just before the positive experience happened grow. Okay, so now if you're engaged with pornography and that culminates in successful sexual satiation, which it can, that's what masturbation does, then the whole personality that's oriented toward that set of stimuli is going to come to dominate. It's very much like an addiction. And it's not surprising that young males in particular are susceptible to that, because male sexuality in human beings is very visually oriented, very. And a lot of our brain is visual, way more than virtually every other animal, certainly every other primate and every other mammal. And so we have a situation where any 13-year-old boy can see more hyper-attractive, super-stimulus women in one day than the most successful man who ever lived 100 years ago would have ever seen in his whole life. Yeah, well, that's like an evolutionary, radical ecological transformation.
And I think that, you know, in hearing from all these people that are addicted to pornography, and they're not addicted like it's telling me they love it and they can't stop. They're telling me it's no longer working for them, that there's this, you know, diminishment in the amount of dopamine that they're getting over time, and they feel trapped within it, and they have no sense whatsoever, because they haven't been socialized to go out and find a real relationship, a real sexual relationship, or a relationship of any kind.
It's also there is some evidence suggesting too that if you've been socialized into pornography, sexuality, it's actually quite difficult to establish a sexual relationship with an actual partner. Now, I would say to some degree that's always been difficult because it's a complex form of behavior. But the introduction of pornography, well, it sets up a whole landscape of expectation, for example, that's not necessarily going to play out that well in the real world, let's say. So,
and there's also a learning of those biological systems in the brain to evoke arousal by observing sex as opposed to participating.
Yes, right.
Completely different. So some of these...
that's voyeur, right? You're basically learning to be a voyeur. Right.
And so you think about young brains that are highly plastic, learning that. So the returning...
Yeah, we have no idea what to make of that, because especially for young men, because when they hit puberty, sexuality becomes a very insistent force. And we have no idea what effect pornography has on the development of male sexuality. None.